Good day to your listeners and those who are watching us. We've just given a report of the 2 commissions that were set aside to deal with social transformation. And we had a very vibrant commission discussion, and everybody who was there had a sense that we had concluded all the work that was before us. We didn't have the hectic time that was experienced by the economic committees, because basically ours is very focused on how do we transform the lives of our people. The basis of our work in the ANC is to create a better life for all. This is encapsulated in our slogan, adopted in 1994. So we measure how far we've gone in ensuring that we have achieved what we've promised our people. But in relation to the broader discussions that have been had, what we wanted to put across is that there has been an overemphasis on the radical economic transformation of our society, almost eclipsing the fact that there has to be radical social transformation in our society. We would like to propose that at all times we talk about the coined phrase, which was adopted in the 53rd Congress of the ANC, which is radical socio-economic transformation. Social transformation is as important as the economic transformation. In fact, it is a first-generation constitutional right. It underpins all those clauses of the Freedom Charter that were put together that underpin the Constitution today. And it is a right, a basic right that we're dealing with. And we've just completed giving the report to plenary, and it was adopted. There have been recommendations which we're going to put together and ensure that it goes to the branches. And at the 54th Congress in December, we will be adopting some of the issues that were discussed yesterday.
Now, just talking about the overall sense of the policy conference, with regards to leadership specifically, one of the themes that has actually come up in some of the breakfast briefings and in some of the commissions, do you say that overall this was a good conference with regards to President Jacob Zuma's future as the president of the party?
No. Allow me to represent the commission that I am chairing and not go into my analysis of individuals. The conference had its glitches. But I think that overall it was a good conference. It has had good outcomes, and where we have not been in agreement, we have agreed to differ. It has been suggested in the drafting committee and in the steering committee that we would put across several options where there isn't straightforward agreement on any particular matter. And I think that is a very acceptable way in which we're dealing with this. The documents are going to go back to our constituency and our branches, and they will direct which way we go. So we'll put the options out there, and it will be a very productive end that we will have today.
Minister, there was a question inside about condoms versus pads, and some people found it to be rather hilarious. But do you have any notes or background on the protection of the girl child in this country? Often we found that the girl child, and particularly the black girl child, is vulnerable. What mechanisms are you going to put in place to the protection of girl children?
Yes. No, I think that the question did arise, and the reason why it created a bit of a discomfort is that my views differed from that of the rapporteur. This is something that I said as the chair of the committee when we were presenting our initial documents to the media, that we're going to demand that in the same way as we have free condoms, there should be free sanitary towels for girl children in school. And he disagreed very vehemently with that. He said that the reason why we have free condoms is not just for boys, it is for the health of both boys and girls. But right now we would like to concentrate on the health of girls because they are the most vulnerable in this particular case. And the reason why they need pads is absolutely part of their biology. Some girls have actually had serious disadvantages in their schooling, because when they do not have the necessary protection at a particular part of the month, they don't go to school, and therefore it adds to their disadvantage. It's a very fundamental, essential matter. It should have been discussed and agreed to a long time ago. There should be free sanitary towels for all girl children. And we've concluded that now, and they shall be free.
And before we let you go, if I may, this is something that has been bugging me all day, Minister. Mr. Joe Netshitenzi yesterday denied the existence of white monopoly capital, and was this morning by the steering committee found to be misleading the nation. Because in his reportage yesterday at the press conference, he said it isn't white monopoly capital, it is just monopoly capital. And a lot of delegates here took him up on that. This morning we heard reportage that the steering committee has found that he misled. In fact and indeed, he lied to the nation, trying to cover up white monopoly capital. That gives us some discomfort, because we've been here for 6 days and a man like Jill stands up and misleads the nation. What should we believe?
Okay. I am not aware of the dimension of the discussion that you're talking about. I saw on television that commission had agreed to dealing with monopoly capital and not putting any appendage to it, as was reported. I'm hearing for the first time that the steering committee has called Joel Netshitenzi to account for putting it across as a decision of the committee. The Economic Transformation Committee will be presenting its discussion document, and that matter will arise, and at that point we will all be clarified what the issue is. I was not in the Economic Transformation Committee, so I am not aware of the issue that you're raising. It will be discussed, and when it is discussed, obviously most of us will have greater clarity of what we're talking about.
Let's pull towards your portfolio more, the decriminalisation of sexual workers in Gauteng. What does that speak for? Because in the Commission, the discussions around it, they said that they are not going to decriminalise sexual workers. What does that speak for Gauteng and the feeling around sexual workers?
Well, this is a proposal that came to Gauteng, and it is possibly the second time that they're presenting it. Now, the normal procedure is that for a matter of this nature, the first step would be a presentation of this to the Social Transformation Committee, so that it is discussed thoroughly before it is put before conference. Conference is a culmination of discussions that have been going on for 5 years. So we were not able to deal with that matter because it has not been on our agenda at all. But we did put it as one of the recommendations for people to consider. And we had the opportunity this morning to apologize to plenary for putting it as a firm proposal that we shall decriminalize sex work. Because it was a proposal, it was not a recommendation, it was not a decision. So when we distribute our documentation, we will have removed that as a resolution. It was a proposal. And further to that, we advised that it should come back to the Social Transformation Committee and be discussed thoroughly. So it will possibly appear in the next conference, definitely not in the December conference, but in the next conference. But what it does do is open up a discussion around what Gauteng and possibly a number of other regions in our country have been grappling with. That sex work is a permanent feature of their economy, especially where women are concerned, and they would like us to ensure that we protect women as they ply their trade. And the argument further is that we perhaps might also consider, if we criminalize sex work, is to criminalize men who benefit from sex work. And in Gauteng, it is called executive pleasure for men. And therefore, it should be wrong for men as it is, in as much as it is wrong for women. So it's a very complex discussion, because we've also got to take into consideration that the totality of our society is a conglomeration of people who might have very different ideas about what it is that is happening in the city. and we've got to take them along with us. So it's going to take a long time for us to reach some finality on that. We have traditional societies that might frown on this for a very long time. We've got to educate them and not move and run ahead of them.
And what's the general consensus on the issue of unity within the party overall by doing away with slates, especially through the proposal to have elections in December where the person who has the most votes becomes president and the one with the second most votes becomes the deputy?
Well, that would be something that would have been discussed in the Commission on the Reorganization of the ANC, Renewal and Reorganization. I have not been in that committee. They will be putting across their proposal for us to engage. That has not been the practice in the past. And we would need to ensure that matters of that nature are thoroughly discussed at branch level. And when there is a greater uptake, we have a greater cohesion and support around that. For something that is put at conference, which has not gone through the branches, it is almost like we are taking advantage of the fact that we are here to take decisions for people who will have to live with those decisions. After all, the appointment or nomination finally of a president happens at branch level. That is their right, it is their privilege, and it should be given back to them before we take any decision on the matter.
We're taking a look at something that has to do with the ANC and then also precisely your portfolio. There's been discussion around policies and that it's not usually the policy that is the problem, it's the implementing of the policy.
Yes.
And around the LGBTI community, this can be seen as a big problem there because LGBTI communities, it's easy to implement policies to help protect the LGBTI community, but it's not easy to change the people on the ground. Yeah. So how have you decided to acknowledge the problems on the LGBTI community on the one side and help the people of South Africa and the citizens also just accept LGBTI community and recognize that they are citizens of South Africa and that they also do have human rights?
Yes. Well, the first step we have already taken, which is to recognize that they are a vulnerable group that requires protection from ourselves, and we've committed ourselves to protect them like any other citizen of this country. The second step would be to ensure that we educate our community about differences in orientation, that this is part of our society and we've got to accept it and protect it. So we will be engaging with media like yourselves, take the opportunity to educate our people about people who have different orientation. There is nothing wrong with them. Our intention is to protect them and ensure that they have as normal a life as you and I have. We haven't taken any steps beyond that. They are protected by law. And this is the second conference where we actually acknowledge that they are a vulnerable group that we need to protect. And I think that is a very laudable step that we should continuously take. We didn't have a representation of that group in our committee. It would have been good to have them explain to us in what ways they feel discriminated, so that we actually zero in on making sure that we can pass legislation that deals with how they feel discriminated. But this is an ongoing process. We will be going back to our constituencies and our branches with the documentation where we say that they are entitled to full protection because they're a vulnerable group, and ensure that we pass it into law as soon as possible.
Now, Minister, looking back at President Jacob Zuma's opening address, there were some reports that his attack on the 101 veterans who boycotted the policy didn't sit down well with you. Has that issue been resolved?
I don't know if it is a fact of not sitting down, of sitting well with me. It took me aback because he's not that kind of person, and I've known him for a very long time. He is the kind of person that the ANC would go to when we have problems of huge differences, because he is a reconciliator. He's a reconciliator. So I was a bit taken aback. And so the interviewer indicated to me that it was not in his text. It was when he was speaking off the cuff. And I was saying, well, he is at his best when he's speaking off the cuff. So it is quite possible there's something that triggered it off, which I am not aware of, but it certainly is not, it's not him.
I must also admit that often media reportage can not be what the minister intended to be. But Minister, earlier this week, I read a report where they said Minister of Human Settlement, Ms. Lindiwe Sisulu, has said that all Gupta ministers must be fired. Did you say that statement, Minister?
Right. We are very concerned about ongoing discussions in the media and in the public domain. And my suggestion is I don't see why the ANC is dilly-dallying on this matter. The people who are accused in the media on a daily basis have, one, the right to have a disciplinary process where they can clarify if, in fact, they are being wrongly accused. Because one, they are being denied the right, if they are being wrongly accused, to explain themselves. On the other hand, if indeed what is being said in the newspapers is true, then the ANC has a responsibility to take the necessary steps to ensure that it does not happen. That is the character of the ANC. We act expeditiously on something to ensure that we are able to protect the integrity of the ANC. So it is two-pronged. One, those people who are accused have a right to protect themselves and to explain what it is that they are accused of. And if they're found to have breached the discipline of the ANC, the natural course of the ANC, unfortunately, would have to take its course.
Well, we have heard then that ANC caucus Jackson Matembu, he has asked for the arrest of those who are accused of intimidating Peter Bruce. That's a welcoming thing, seeing that journalists needs to be protected from, to be free and fair. But now we haven't heard anything from the ANC top leadership when it came to our own reporters that were being assaulted, and that was quite a devastating blow because, I mean, also our journalists need to have the free space to have to report on the news. So what is your views on that?
No, it still goes back to the previous question you asked me. I don't see why we should dilly-dally. Perhaps there is something wrong structurally in the way that we operate. But when something of a nature that is that you're describing, or the one that I have alluded to before, happens, we should very immediately deal with that matter and ensure that we can lance the boil, you know, and ensure that there is speedy recovery. I'm hearing for the first time that your reporters have been harassed and treated badly. I am very sorry about that, but I am certain that it will get the same coverage and sentiment and support that Peter Bruce has had. But I think that in dealing with the organizational reorganization, we need to find a committee that deals with matters of here and now, so that they don't get misinterpreted, that they don't get out of proportion, and they don't harm the ANC in the end. There must be a rapid response to some of the things that are out in the media or are happening to reporters or to our people.
Now, Minister, looking forward towards the December elective conference, the ANC, there have been talks about it being ready for a female president. Do you have any presidential ambitions?
I don't have any presidential ambition, but at the same time, I don't think I am ready to answer the question that you are asking me to answer. No, I just have a burning desire for the ANC. This is my life. This is all I've ever had. It's my religion.
So if the branches were to say, please take up this role?
You're now really pushing me. I did indicate I'm not ready to respond to that just yet. All I am saying is that I was expressing my passion is the ANC. I have a passion for the ANC. I don't have a passion for being a president or anything like that. But anything that the ANC requires done, I think that every member of the ANC would need to consider it and ensure that we take the ANC forward to give it over to the next generation in the way that we received it. We all have some kind of obligation.
What's up? I see you sitting patiently there and just waiting. If you have a question for the minister, you can ask her.
No, not quite a question. I think maybe a comment that my own view is that if you look at the radical socio-economic transformation. I think that is important, obviously, to say, but that for me is an overarching. You gotta then say, out of that, socially, how do we transform this country? Because socially, we still pretty much operate on the pre-1994 era. The situation still hasn't changed. If you look at most of the social housing that has been built, it is being built largely for African people because the others pretty much are able to get by themselves. But on the other hand, you've got the economy, and that also needs to be radically transformed. And for me, that the economy is actually the foundation of politics and the foundation of socio-political life. If we can't do anything tangible to radically transform this economy and macroeconomically, so to speak, in order to ensure, well, what is our relation with within South Africa, but also within the global context. How do we do that? You find that socio-politically, we are going to be having difficulties. And my observation has been that pretty much the conferences is coming to a close. There hasn't really been mechanics of, well, these are the steps, these are the things that we are going to be doing next to ensure this is a package of instruments and measures that we will be employing to ensure that we can, at some point in time, make a reflection and say, yes, what progress has been made and what are the results that have been achieved in towards radical socio-political as well as socio-economical, but more specifically on the economic front. As I say, that the economy is the foundation of politics. If we still have the economically skewed ownership patterns as we have and participation patterns as we have, it makes it almost impossible for us to be able to achieve the radical socio-political transformation that we so require. And that maybe has been, I don't know, perhaps because I've not been in commissions, I just wondered if maybe there are some certain package of measures and instruments that will be employed to ensure that we achieve that radical transformation. I know that some have said you need growth. Now, if I look at the English dictionary, it tells me if I were to take this table and cut it in half, I would have transformed its shape because I would have altered its shape. And for me, the transformation element is that of altering the shape and form of what exists instead of what could be in the future or what we could evolve or grow into the future. And that maybe has not been a message that has been very much clear and loud, I think, to the population as to what are this package of measures that will then be implemented that are measurable.
You know, Tsepo, your lens is very economic-based lens. So everything is interpreted from your perspective. What we've been trying to say is, even as you look at the economy and radical transformation of the economy, do remember that it is social economic transformation. There is an overemphasis of late on the economy. Don't leave social transformation aside, because in social transformation are other attendant matters that are not standalone, but need urgent attention. We need to transform the mindset of our people to ensure that we can eradicate racism. We need to transform our people's mindset to understand that the community of LGBTQ has as much right as anybody else. There are other matters that are just purely social matters. And we've got to make sure that we deal with those as well. So the point that we are making, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying, cautioning you on an overemphasis on the economy when in fact we should be dealing with both, and that is what the 53rd conference had concluded. This is what we're wanting to put on the table. The measurables that we can look at and indicate that we are succeeding or not succeeding. If we take the issue of human settlements, when we moved away from housing to deal with human settlements, it was precisely to deal with the legacy of apartheid and apartheid spatial patterns. We're now able to look at what we've done and see if in fact we have achieved a totally transformed society. And we're able to say we're nowhere near where we should be. We're still building very much along the racial patterns of the past, and we're not going to get there unless we do something radically different. And what we're doing radically different is to try and ensure that we can take over state land or public land within the precincts of the city, so we can bring people together. And in that way, will we be able to represent the South Africa of the future, the South Africa that we fought for, where we have a better life for all, and all live together and all share the same advantages or disadvantages, whatever they are. So we have had measurables. We have had opportunity in our committee to look at the measurables, and we have come to the conclusion that we need to do something very drastic and fast on human settlements. We need to do something very fast and drastic on the violation of rights of women and children. Patriarchy is another matter that has no economic base to it. It is just a feeling of the superiority of one gender over and above the other. And we've got to deal with that. We've got to deal with the empowerment of women. We've got to deal with empowerment of society to deal with the abuse of women, and a whole lot of other things that we were able to measure. We've come to the conclusion now that we need to fast track the hate crime legislation that deals with racism. We've got to begin to internalize the issue that we still have racism. We still have racism that we've got to deal with. We've come to the conclusion that where there is crime, violent crime and abuse of women, especially in relation to rape and murder of women, minimum sentence should be raised to 15 to 20 years. We've measured whether or not we're doing well in the protection of women and children who are suffering from domestic abuse, and we've come to the conclusion that we need more public education. We need more facilities in our communities to protect these. And so we have had measurables that are not economic necessarily. But the point is, and this is what we're conveying, don't overemphasize the economy at the expense of social transformation. The roots of apartheid were very firmly in how you separate societies on the basis of the superiority of one race over and above the other. And this is the backbone of what we still need to deal with and eradicate completely. And perhaps this is where we both of us agree there needs to be radical transformation, both of the economy and of our society. And we're not doing very well on either of the two right now.
Minister, before we let you go, at one of the business breakfasts, the CEO of Investec spoke.
Yes.
And his basic message was, don't touch the economy. In fact, if I paraphrase it, he said, well, I believe in radical economic transformation, but don't touch the economy. So is there going to be a fight back, do you believe, from what we term white monopoly capital to fight radical economic transformation? Because the word out there is saying the only attempt for radical economic transformation is to create black industrialists. That will be called black monopoly capital or Indian monopoly capital. Are you not anticipating that corporate or white monopoly capital is going to fight back and is going to be a nasty fight? And Minister, does the idea of a black monopoly even exist in this country?
You're now drawing me into a discussion that you had in the committee yesterday, which has not presented its findings to the plenary. And I think it would be unfortunate for me to discuss a matter that I was not part of, even before it is placed before plenary. When I came in here, I was confronted with a question about what Joel Netshitenza said, and I indicated that I was not aware of that. I think we, all of us are in agreement that we must respect the parameters within which we work. I will wait for the Economic Transformation Committee to report, and we will be able to present our views. And possibly then, having been enriched by the discussions that have been going on there, I will be able to come back here and give my view. In the same way as I would not expect anybody who has not heard our report as social transformation to come and make their views heard here, when in fact we have had 2 days of discussion on some of those matters, if you will allow me.
Well, thank you so much for joining us in studio, Lindiwe Sisulu, and also Tsepo Khadima and Safiz Mahlango joining us in studio. And we're having a bit of an analysis as to what has happened at the ANC, a policy conferences so far, all the big debates and all the interesting conversations so far.